So good morning, everyone. Hello. Is everyone warm and dry today? I woke up this morning very early and to the sound of the rain pounding in my roof, and I thought, if it doesn't let up, I don't know if I'll be able to drive. And all of a sudden, at 7 o'clock, the rain subsided and I was able to come on down. It's nice. Very nice. No drama on the roads this morning. Everyone was being kind. So that was great. Oh, I also want to show you this lovely suitcase cover. I want to say thank you, Debbie. She made this for me. Oh, yeah, with the secret beads and everything that were from Venice Beach. Buddhist in Venice Beach. Buddhist in Venice Beach. So, can everyone on Zoom hear me okay? Thumbs up, good. Okay, thank you. So I wanted to talk to you today about how sometimes we come into practice, and I'm sorry, I've touched on this a little bit before. We come into practice, so maybe some of you, like me, started practice thinking, oh, I'm going to meditate and be a good Zen Buddhist, and I will be a better person and get rid of all these personality flaws. And I'll be like those people in the movies that are so serene and calm and nothing bothers them. That's what I wanted. Well, you can probably imagine how disappointed I was when, I thought I must be a Zen failure. There have been people who've written about being a Zen failure, and
he's in our lineage.
Yes, he is. You want to say his name?
David Chadwick.
Yes.
And I think it's called Zen Failure. Something like that. You could easily find it. David's
Yes.
Great. He's a wonderful failure. No, go ahead.
He was a wonderful failure. He wrote a book called Thank You and Okay.
Yeah.
If you read it, it's a fabulous book. And he spent time in Japan practicing, and anyway, it's a wonderful book, and I'd highly recommend it. Right. So if you go into this like I did, thinking it would also alleviate my depression. Well, that didn't happen either. And I realized that in our tradition, there's this practice called shikantaza. In shikantaza, we sit still, we stop talking, stop moving, and pay attention to whatever rises. It's translated as silent illumination, shikantaza. And it allows us to open our hearts to life just as it is, and to recognize our intimacy with all beings, including our pain. Rather than avoid it, we turn toward whatever is arising and open our hearts to things as they are. Acceptance of our condition gives birth to compassion. This is no small thing. So how do we do this? How do we accept our condition? And how do we give birth to compassion? Well, for myself, okay, let me just continue 1 minute here. The practices of opening our hearts to things as they are and taking action to improve things may seem contradictory, but they're actually complementary. Bearing witness and practicing skillful means are like the foot before and the foot behind in walking in a complete Zen practice. In Zen practice, the first step is to see what is present. From this perspective, whatever arises is a Dharma gate. One is not an escape hatch from this. That's what I thought it was, but it's not. Just acknowledging pain can be relief, giving ourselves and others permission to be exactly as we are in any given moment is the heart of compassion and opens the door for us to respond with loving kindness. It also invites more openness and curiosity about our experience. So just acknowledging the pain, just acknowledging that we are depressed or sad or angry can be a relief. Just acknowledging it. And what this writer is it says is invite it in, take a good look at it, and let it go. And we say this over and over and over again in Zen, is watch your pain arise and let it fall away again. But it's not so easy sometimes, I found. Many years ago, when I was dealing with some issues, you know, the usual depression, et cetera, that came up, I saw the movie Mrs. Doubtfire. And I've talked about this before, so forgive me for repeating myself, but she was a very powerful presence in my head for a while. So whenever these destructive thoughts would come into my head, you know, what did you say that for? What's wrong with you? Why don't you do better with your finances? Why doesn't anybody want to, you know, hang out with you? Those types of intrusive thoughts occasionally still come up, but back then, man, they were just really, really relentless. And so, seeing the movie Mrs. Doubtfire, I channeled her voice in my head. Yes, go ahead and laugh. It's I hope funny. She said, "Oh no, you know her voice, the melodic, grandmotherly voice that she has. It's so soothing." So I pulled up in my head. I said, "Oh no, dear, you know you are being a little bit too harsh on yourself. Just try to find a forgiveness with yourself, dear." And I've had these dialogues over and over again in my head, and it worked. It worked. And then things turned for the better in my life, and I didn't need her anymore. But one thing I did learn from channeling Mrs. Doubtfire is that this depression has no fixed essence. It's not a solid thing. I know that it's going to come up again and again. That's just how I'm hardwired. But I know that there are strategies for dealing with this anxiety and depression. And recognizing that it's impermanent is a great relief. It's not solid. And like we learned in the Heart Sutra, that there's an imaginary line between the inside and the outside, between self and other. And our intimacy with all beings is no small comfort. Even when we think we are alone, we are held by the boundless universe, and the universe resides in our hearts. That's what the Heart Sutra teaches us in part. I mean, you don't have to be depressed or deal with anxiety and all this to come to this realization. Although we may surrender and stay curious and even appreciate stone cold walls, sometimes depression feels relentless. The persistence of depression is not an indicator of a failed practice. While wide awake, we can be trapped in a well. All right, but while wide awake, you can still be trapped. We will need to do more than meditate to take care of ourselves. This is part of stepping off the 100-foot pole. When hungry, we eat. When tired, we sleep. When depressed, we employ skillful means to alleviate suffering. This too may be part of an awakened life. So for me, when depression arises, it's helpful to accept the guest who is with me and in the moment and offer a compassionate response, like I tried to do with Mrs. Doubtfire. Although it may feel like my fault, I remind myself that nobody is at fault. There is no first cause. That's just how it is. We are all the result of our causes and conditions. And I love this saying that Suzuki Roshi taught us. You know, when negative thoughts arise, don't invite them in for a cup of tea. So invite them in, take a good look at them, acknowledge them, but send them on their way. Don't invite them in for a cup of tea. I love that. So he goes on to say that faith sustains me. Faith that even depression is without fixed essence. Faith that all things change, and faith in something bigger than my limited karmic self. We don't only save all beings, but are saved by all beings. The universe is always holding us compassionately, and we are manifestations of its infinite presence. Like Buddha on the night of his enlightenment, we can touch the earth and feel it supporting us moment after moment, even in our darkest hours. We can even cry out to this universe to save us. And in the moment of our cry, the universe responds. The cry itself is the voice of Buddha. And Sue Moon talked about this, being when she took that dive into the ocean, when she was dealing with this major depressive episode. When she took that dive into the ocean, taking off her bathing suit and feeling just every micro inch of her body being supported by the ocean and held and touched by the ocean, that she realized she is loved and supported by the universe. And that was a turning point for me. It's a very beautiful time. So I do want to say, though, that meditation in and of itself is not the be all and end all to cure depression or anxiety or any issue. What Norman Fisher has taught me is that meditation kind of cleans the window to make you see more clearly what your issues are, whatever arises. So when you think about when you're meditating, and it's stone cold silent, you are totally and utterly alone with your thoughts and yourself. And that allows you to examine what's going on with yourself. And hopefully, maybe we can step back, take the backward step, and take a good look at those issues. So don't be afraid if you do deal with this issue with depression, anxiety, or if you know of people who are dealing with depression, anxiety. Medication is available. Psychotherapy is available. So meditation is only one part, I believe, of that path to wellness. So we do have to get in touch with what works best for us. For me, taking long walks in the forest really, really helps. The exercise does something physiologically that I don't know what it is, but it just works. Every time I take a mile or more walk, I feel so much better. Speaking with friends about this, hanging out with good people who listen and are kind is essential and helps. Doing for others helps a lot. Making bread for neighbors and friends. I had a neighbor across the street, her sister died. She was 36. She suddenly passed away. And so I made him some bread, and that got me out of my self-absorption. It really did. Yeah, cooking for myself, being kind to myself. And when I make a mistake, not being too hard on myself, in the cooking, because not every recipe is going to turn out, of course. Learn from that mistake in whatever mistake I made in cooking and go on and do better next time. That's all we can do with anything in our lives is learn from our mistakes and do better next time. So, caring for depression is a compassionate practice that cultivates insight, patience, responsiveness, and loving kindness. As we continue to practice meditation and skillful means, we find that our sense of interconnectedness and compassion naturally extend to all beings with whom we intimately share this life. Caring for depression is nothing to be ashamed of. It is a powerful way to manifest our bodhisattva vow to save all beings. So thank you for listening to me. So,